Hello, my friends. Lori Ashcraft here. I'm your host for Viva La Evolution, which is sponsored by Recovery and Resilience Solutions, a training and consulting branch of Crestwood Behavioral Health. And today, I know I always say this, and it's always true. Today, we have another extremely amazing guest that I am so delighted to share with you. This is Susi Morales. And Susi is extra special to me. We met each other in probably 2022, the beginning of the recovery movement in Phoenix, Arizona. And Gina and I had just gotten a grant right around this time to do peer support training. And we didn't know what we were doing, but Lisa St. George and I and Anne and Mary Ann, we figured out how to write a curriculum, put it together, and did our first class. And in one of those very first classes, it could have been the first one, but if it wasn't the first, it was right in there. Susi was a student, and I got to be one of her instructors, which was such an honor. Right from the beginning, Susi had such incredible energy, and I'm not going to go on and on because you'll see how amazing she is. And before I forget, would you please subscribe? It would help us out a lot. And we've had over 5,000 views of these podcasts, and but we don't have 5,000 subscribers. We need more subscribers. It helps us out. So if you don't mind, and I don't have a fancy flashy button or anything, but over on the bottom right-hand corner is the little red thing. It has a little X in it. No, anyway, it's a little red thing. If you punch that, a little sign will come up that says subscribe. That's all you got to do. Just do that. Help me out. All right. Now, I had Susi because I'm going to introduce you to her right now. And there's so much to say that I had her write it down so I don't get it wrong. So after, I don't want to say things that she's going to say, so I'll just quickly say, after she went through the class, she came to work for us, did amazing, amazing, amazing work, went on to work at other peer places around Arizona and made amazing contributions. The whole time, she's going to school also. And at this point, she might do more after this, we don't know, but at this point, she has a Bachelor in Science and Sociology and Psychology from Arizona State University. She has a master's degree of jurisprudence in labor and employment law. And from that lofty position, she does a lot of a consultation to peers who need to know HR rules and laws and options and opportunities and so forth. So she's continuing her peer work at a whole other level, and from a heart that is beautiful, beautiful. You'll see. Let me just read this to you. My consulting work centers on HR compliance and organizational integrity. Most of the calls I receive come from peer employees seeking clarity and guidance. She's got something here on workplace investigations, policy revisions, agency training. Oh, she's done a whole series of training for agencies on working with peers and a bunch of other stuff that I don't understand. Okay, so here's Susi. You're going to love this. Oh, and be ready for a real surprise in the background when we start, and you'll get a whole other view of Susi. So here we are with the amazing Susi Morales.
Oh, I don't know about how amazing I am, but I surely am excited.
Trust me, you are amazing. You've always been amazing. You've been kind of tamped down sometimes by people and circumstances, but
a little bit.
Always been amazing.
Thank you. Oh, that's wonderful. It's good to hear. I don't always remember that.
Yeah. Well,
So
etch it in your mind now from now on.
thanks, Lori. I appreciate that.
So we want to talk about how we met and your recovery story. And let's go kind of deep with recovery stories. And I'll add some of mine in too, if it helps. Because your story is so unique and yet so available to so many people.
Oh.
So I want people to really hear what you went through, what that turning point was when you realized you could recover, and then how you started your recovery journey. But before we do any of that, I know our guests are going, what is all that stuff in the background?
Oh.
So tell us about this amazing work you do.
Thank you. This is my adventure. Okay. So I started with tie-dye. I needed something to do with my grandchildren. And so I went on Amazon and I picked out a $9 tie-dye kit, and I poked a bunch of holes in some trash bags. It was the middle of winter. And so I put trash bags on them and we tie-dyed our hearts out. And the kids walked away and they were, oh, that was fun, Nana. And I walked away with, I think I just found my calling. So I quit my PhD education to become a tie-dye artist. Well, I mean, it's a little more involved than that, but that's basically what happened. So what happens is there's this spark that happens in me. And I think it was really the first time. I mean, of course, I've had joyful moments and I've experienced happiness. But this was the first time I think that joy actually defined itself inside of me. Was when I successfully, on my own, folded. This is a good example. Folded a tie-dye shirt and had it come out the way I desired it to. And it's a process. It's probably a 3-day process, but it's just something that's in my soul. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the best way to go with it. That's what all of this is. This is all a part of what brings me joy. And hopefully other people too.
Oh gosh, it has to. So this is just a sampling. You were telling me that you've got closets full of this stuff.
I do.
And you have
hundreds of stuff.
And you have a website that you sell it to people?
I do. The website is www.beyoualways.shop. It's an experience. It's an adventure. It's a thing of beauty is really what it is. I mean, even if my shirt doesn't turn out it doesn't turn out the way I wanted it to, I always walk away feeling it turned out the way it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you know what I think you're tapping into there, something that keeps me alive, and of course there's a lot of research on this, is once we tap into the creative process, it opens up a part of our brain that is just transporting. It's a spiritual experience.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's what got you hooked in the first place, was the creative experience. And then bringing the music in, I can just hear in that process all the stuff you learned in peer support and all the work you did in that area.
Yeah.
Learning how to tune into somebody and respect their process and reflect who they are and what they want.
Exactly. Thank you, Lori, for that. Yes, that's what the words I was looking for. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. It's not about me at that point. It's about them.
Yes, I can hear that.
Yeah. It's an important part of my process. I think an important part of everything I do.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't unmake yourself. Once you find yourself, I mean, you can lose your way all over the place, but once you find yourself, it's hard to lose it again. It's always there. Sometimes we put it in the background, but it's still there waiting
Yeah.
to come forward for us. Well, let's go back a little bit, Susi.
Okay.
Talk about when we first met, and let's talk about your recovery process. It's such an inspiring story.
Oh, thank you. We met in 2002. Just last night I was watching your podcast with Mike Zeeb.
Oh, yeah.
Adore him.
I do
He was
too.
in two classes. Apparently the one with the professionals, and then I guess when you hired him, he went through another class, and that's the class that he and I were in together.
Oh, wow.
And we had so much fun. But that's where you and I met. That
Yeah.
first
Okay.
time.
Was I teaching the class?
You were teaching the class with Lisa. You and
Oh,
Lisa
okay.
were
Yeah.
co-facilitating this
Okay.
class, and I made some self-deprecating remark. It was something like, well, what do you expect? I'm just a mental patient, or something to that effect. And you came up to me and you were inches away from my nose with the most beautiful expression on your face that I had never experienced in any human ever.
Huh.
And you said to me, very matter of fact, but very gently, you said, well, Susie, I understand, I think, what you're trying to say, but I want you to hear something different. Not only are you not a mental patient, you're a full-on human being.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And those words have stayed with me for, what is that, 23 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
How
that
did I do
moment,
that?
it was a pivotal moment for me. I mean, I knew intellectually everything that you said was true, but I had never felt it through a human connection until that moment.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I mean, my history, we can get into that. It stands to reason that that was the case,
Hmm.
but it was such a awakening thing for me that I wound up going to work for Meta.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
For several
So
years, even.
yes,
Yeah.
several years, and even working in partnership when I wasn't employed by Meta, we were working in partnership
Mhm.
together for several more years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But you asked about my recovery. Um, it started then. My professional background um, had been in administration through. I was working for Land America. I was doing national commercial escrow, and I had been hospitalized for the first. My mother died, and I was hospitalized for the first time. It was just under a year later that I wound up taking the peer support class. I was,
Um, let's see. How old were you when this happened, when that first experience happened?
I want to say early 30s.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking
So
too.
I was 29 when my mother died, and this was post that. So I want to say I was early 30s, maybe 30, 31 years old.
And before that, did you have any indication that you were going to have some challenges?
Well, people had tried what at the time in my early 20s, what I had deemed as somebody trying to shove me into a box.
Okay.
I had been told that I had bipolar 1 disorder, but I gave it no countenance,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I knew it. My father had it, my brother had it, several of my siblings had it, several of my family members had it.
Mhm.
I but it I did,
Well,
there was no way.
in all fairness, I mean, what we know now is that you had a traumatic experience
Hmm.
and were suffering from trauma. But I could see why people, I mean, people have done this to me too. A very high energy person who has something happen to them can often get diagnosed with bipolar.
Mhm.
But it's just who we are. We just have a lot of energy.
Yes.
You know, so
go ahead.
I have a hunch that's what happened is you were being your high energy self. And if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Right.
We weren't so into trauma yet in those days. It was more like you either had bipolar or you had schizophrenia or you had schizoaffective.
Right. Those were the three choices. Yeah.
That's kind of where they were. So I can see why they would have. That's an honest mistake to make.
Well, especially considering I didn't speak out loud my trauma until I was 52, 53 years old.
Huh.
So, and it was to my siblings. It was kind of a blur. But
Yeah.
it turns out that once they found the correct medication to put me on for my brain chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
it was magic. Now they tried every cocktail, what I called the psychotropic diet. I was on a psychotropic diet for years of 12 pills, 16 pills, 13 pills, 8 pills, and had no idea that the doctors didn't necessarily know what was going on or didn't know how to treat somebody with complex situations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So eventually I did get put on a correct medication that did settle down some of the excitability. I would go 6 days without sleeping.
I know that about you.
Yeah. So they now know that due to complex PTSD, now they don't like to put labels. Thankfully, my medical professionals don't really rely upon labels for that, which is wonderful for me because, again, another first for me, right? Mm-hmm. Another first time for not having a medical doctor wanting to shove me into a box and then shove pills down my throat. So given my brain chemistry, I have now a medical team that works. My primary care physician now works with my psychiatric team, and together they work in partnership to make sure that I can stay who I am, but also have my physical needs met. Yeah. So it's really cool.
Yeah. That's the way it's supposed to happen all along. It just doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah. So
to kind of put things together, there was some early, probably childhood trauma of some sort that you kind of kept under wraps.
Right.
I know about that. I kept my symptoms under wraps till I was about 40.
Yeah.
Before I could talk about it. So under wraps until an event, a catastrophic, like mom dying event. And then it's just hard to hold it together.
It was hard to hold it together. Yeah. So I wound up in the hospital. I was hospitalized 2 or 3 times before I got to peer support. So I was introduced to value options. I was introduced to then the peer support training classes. And in the midst of that, while that transition was taking place, I was taking the RAP classes.
Yes.
At the value options clinic.
So and let me stop you just a second to explain to people. So when Susi's talking about value options was the HMO in Phoenix when all this took place. And so Susi probably got sent to case management because of her hospitalization.
It is. Yeah.
Had a case manager, and thank God it was a good one who referred her to the peer training.
Right.
The prerequisite in those days to the peer training was to was to take the RAP class. So
Yes, it was.
she took the RAP class and then enrolled in the peer training.
Yes. Yes, I did. So now going through all of that, you know, I think I touch upon this in the book that we'll talk about later.
Okay.
The recovery process began there. I started to absorb bits of truth that came from your program, you know, the metas program.
Yeah.
And started to believe that it was possible to believe, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. To have
And yes. So to hope, I began to hope that I could hope, I think is where I was at that moment in time. And I attended the peer support training. I went through the graduation. I went through the employment. I went through a lot of my skill set kicked in probably before my recovery set did. You know, I had a vast administrative skill set prior to making it to Meta, which probably helped a lot. But I don't think my true recovery actually, like, I absorbed that it was possible that I could actually be a whole human being with many facets until I stepped away from working in behavioral health altogether. So,
okay, let me back you up. So after graduation, you actually went to work for Meta.
I did. I worked in the RAP and well department.
And 3 or 4 years did you work there?
4 years.
4 years, okay. And then you moved on to other organizations or
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I followed somebody through those organizations.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And you were about to say that's when your recovery kicked in or was challenged, or what were you going to say there?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So as I was working, I left Meta, which, you know, in hindsight was probably not the best idea. I was doing really well at Meta. But I worked for an individual for several years after, a total of 9 or 10 years that I worked for that particular individual starting at Meta. And I kicked my recovery to the background so that I could be an employee. I hadn't integrated both at that point in time. So I still had bipolar disorder. I still had complex PTSD, but they weren't a whole person. There was like this dichotomy that was taking place. So I would work and I would do really well at work, and then I would come home and break down.
Yeah.
You know, because I hadn't learned, or I had learned, but I hadn't absorbed. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the only way I know how to describe it.
You're talking about the fundamental challenge of maintaining recovery. And trust me, all of us who've recovered have not just one of these moments, but many, many, many of them. I speak from experience. And if I had to describe it, I would, which isn't going to be perfect and won't describe everybody's situation. But for me, it's like when I start paying more attention to my work than I do to keeping myself well. And it's so seductive because, especially when we've been kind of pushed down a long time, and we get validated for our work, we want to do more of our work.
Right.
That's where we get validated. And then we turn around and we go, where did I leave myself? Where did I leave my spirit? You know, where's my spiritual connection now? And then we have to circle back. And unfortunately, this is where often in recovery, people will revert to an addiction, because that's the first solution that comes to mind.
Yeah.
If they're lucky, they won't do that. Or if they have a good guide, they won't do that. And they'll come back around and find themselves and actually come back stronger than they were before the little breakdown. So that's pretty much what you're describing. And yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think it gives everybody a good picture of what actually happens to us.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And I think it happens to everybody, but people who haven't struggled are good at hiding it. They just
I became very good at hiding it.
Yeah,
I know I did myself, and several others probably too. Yeah,
I got good at that too.
Yeah, when I don't want to say forced, but it felt forced at the time. I felt like I had been forced, like the universe had forced me into a situation where I had no choice but to look at who I was, who I could be, and the whole individual.
Yeah.
I was forced. I mean, I tell my son, I'm like, well, if we don't slow down when we have the signs that we're supposed to slow down, something is going to stop us in our tracks.
Yes.
And that's what happened. I got stopped in my tracks. And I think that's when my transition started. It's still ongoing, and I think it'll probably be ongoing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But I feel whole today where I didn't for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that recovery started when I was forced to be me, myself, and I.
Mm-hmm.
There was no external forces. There was no employment. There was no external relationships that I felt like I had to nurture. There was just me. Yeah. And I was thankful. Eventually, I was thankful for that.
Yeah.
Not right away.
I can relate to that so well. Everything's stopping, and then there you are. And then you just have to find yourself again, or yourself has to find you, maybe is the better word.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe some semblance of both.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably for every human being. I don't know for anybody else. I've heard stories told where other people forget that they are actually a human being, where we're a whole person. We have feelings, we have situations, we have responses to situations that are completely understandable.
Yes.
And yet at least I was very quick to blame it on a symptom, or blame it on a something external, or even something internal that nobody else could see or hear. But realizing that I have a spirit, I have a body, I have a brain, and all of them are very complex. Yes. And when I allowed myself to believe that all three of them could work in concert with each other, as opposed to continually fighting my brain for its diagnosis, and my body for its reaction to medications, and my brain for forgetting more skills than I'll ever remember. At some point it became really okay to be forgetful and to have emotions and to still be a smart individual and have those skills, but forget some of those other skills, because that's just what happens when we are no longer 25 years old. And Acceptance, I think, is probably one of my most, I don't even know the word for it. It is probably one of the things that I am the most thankful for, is just the fact that I I accept myself. I make really big mistakes. I do really grand things. I'm artistic and I'm logical and I'm everything and I'm nothing. And all of that is perfectly okay. And
Yes.
if nobody else is okay with that, I'm okay with that too. You
So
know, I
just
got to a point.
you just did a beautiful job of describing that process.
Oh,
I'm wondering if for our viewers, if you could just put that into maybe two sentences. Because, I mean, tell us, how do we
sure.
get to the point of accepting ourselves, especially women? How do we stop beating ourselves up? How do we start seeing ourselves as beautiful and smart and connected spiritually and lovable? How do we do that? How do we
I
get there?
Yeah, it happens when for me, it happened when I let go of what I thought were the expectations of me. I
Mhm,
let go of my self stigmatizing. You know, I'm
mhm,
supposed to be this, I have to do that. At this point in my life, I'm supposed to meet these many goals.
mhm, mhm.
I I let go of that prescription. Nobody else can write that prescription for me.
Yes, yes.
And when I realized that I wanted to learn how to say no. I wanted to be the one to say no.
Mhm, mhm.
I I wanted to be the one to say yes. You
Yeah,
know, and to be able to change my mind and not feel like the world was going to come crashing down on my head.
yeah, yeah.
So that's where it started. It started with that small still voice that
Ah,
said,
I was
"You can do this.
I was
You
waiting for you to say
are
that.
enough."
Yes, I was waiting for that. That still
Yeah,
small
that
voice.
still small voice.
But where does it come from with you? Does it come
I
deep within or from outside or?
I used to call it rebellion. You know, I am not the quietest person on the planet. I'm not the softest or the sweetest person on the planet. I I got to a point because I always thought that that was wrong. I was told that was wrong. I was told that if I opened my mouth at any point in time ever, that I would be wrong. And I still fight it to this day, but I'm okay with being wrong. And I had it started with learning how to say no. I stood
Mhm,
in the mirror.
mhm,
There is a point in the recovery education way back when where we we learn new behaviors and we're taught that, you know, caregivers have a new role to play as well as those of us who are recovering have a new role to play. I stood in the mirror and I would cry and I would sob, but I would say the word no.
mm,
And the first time I said it to a human being out loud, like, I'm going to say no, I ran into my room and I cried for hours.
huh.
But when I stopped crying, I realized I said the word no.
Yeah,
How exciting was that?
yeah,
And it took practice. It took a whole lot of research. It took a whole lot of understanding that I didn't possess at the time,
mhm,
that I am enough.
mhm.
I'm enough for me. And if I can be enough for somebody else, that's a awesome benefit.
Yes.
But I'm enough for myself. at any given time. And if I do the best that I can to be the best me that I can be you always.
Yes.
I'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
That be you always, be yourself. That's permission. I somehow made a transition where I gave myself permission to stop hearing those horrible voices in my head that said, you're stupid. You'll never make it. Even if you do make it, it's not going to be enough. And you're ugly, and you're just so many things that I really wasn't. But I believed that I was, because that voice, that was not a still small voice.
Yeah, okay.
That was a big loud voice.
Yes.
That said, it just kept hammering me. The still small voice. I think it was that part of me that I was born with.
Yes.
That I just stopped listening to, or didn't know how to listen to.
Huh. Yeah.
And finally said, I hear that. What is that? Can that be true? So yes, I still believed all the other stuff, but I opened up the possibility for that still small, beautiful whisper of a voice to say, you are this, you are whoever, you are enough, and you can do or not do whatever you choose.
Yeah.
It was that moment that I realized I actually had a choice, because I didn't know that either.
I think that's the real recovery moment. And we often have to have several of those for it to stick.
Oh, yeah, there were a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
Susi, thank you for sharing all of that with us. You did such a good job of articulating
Thank you, Lori.
the process.
Excuse me, you're so gracious. I feel like I'm kind of a bumbling bumblebee, kind of hopping all over the place, but thank you so much. I so much enjoy talking to you.
I do too, you. And you know what? Let's talk about this, your latest book. I know you've written other books, but this is just hot off the press.
Yes, it is hot off the press. Just 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. I haven't looked through it in depth because I just got it a couple days ago, but it looks wonderful. There's so many good stories and also ideas for us to maintain recovery.
There's
there's
also neuro research, and my favorite part is the end. My favorite part is the end of the book, where I talk about why everybody else before that point in the book. Chapter 12 is what I'm talking about. So it's the Be You Always chapter. And it's my favorite because it ties in the stories and the neuro research and the everything to these little Susi-isms, if you will, and why this person still remains in my heart and my soul. And that person still, their messaging to me will forever be treasured. And why I think it's important for us to stop and notice those little treasures that we all have. That make us who we are, because be you always. This, I don't know if you can see the poster behind me.
Yes.
It says, you are the only you this world has. That makes you a hot commodity.
Yes, I love that. I was trying to read that earlier.
Yeah. And then it might be you always down at the bottom. But that's when I was working with the formerly incarcerated. The job that I had was sustainability coach. And I had a caseload, for lack of a better term right now. I had a caseload of about 100 maybe a little less than 100 people, and 68 of them were level 2 and level 3 sex offenders. And do you know, because I heard you talking with Mary Ellen Copeland, that when you were working in the prisons, that it was one of the most rewarding jobs you ever had.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me tell you, this was, if I could have had that job for the rest of my life, I would have died a happy person at a very old age. And so the chapter 12, it kind of ties in all of the things that I finally allowed myself to hold on to. You know, and why I think that they're important, and what application they can have for other people.
Well, now I can't wait to hang up and read chapter 12.
Oh, that's my favorite. It has all my Susi-isms in there, but it also ties it all in. It ties the whole book in together. And, you know, there are people in the book, some of them, all of them, I treasure. Maybe not for the reasons that people would expect. I treasure the traumatic experiences, because I wouldn't be who I am today without those yesterday. And I treasure the really wonderful moments and the people who taught me things that I never would have even considered important. Not the people, but the things that they taught me. Of course, the people too.
Yes.
But the things that they taught me, and the things that I was able to hold on to, that those important moments were important for a reason, and they were important to get me to a place in my life where trauma was not going to be the center. And my diagnosis, both medical and behavioral, were not going to be the center. My heart, my soul, the things that I believe, the things that I find important, the things that I hold dear, those are the things that are going to be the center of me.
I love that, Susi.
And the rest of it is a part of me, and it's an important part, but it's not the main part.
What I'm hearing is that's the core part. That's the core of who you are. And we all still get jerked around by a diagnosis or a situation, or someone being mean to us.
Yeah.
We're still jerked around by it. And sometimes we do it to ourselves. We're our own.
Sometimes. Yeah. I know. I do.
That's not who we are.
Right.
It's not who we are. This is who we are right here.
Yeah. I used to be so afraid of saying that I made a mistake, because it was a punishable offense way back when. And now I think it's one of the things that it's not that I enjoy telling people that I really screwed up, because, you know, I don't know if anybody really enjoys doing that, but it's such an honor to be able to say those words out loud, that when I say, oh yeah, yep, that was me. Oops, sorry. My bad. It's more than empowering. It's literally an honor to be able to tell somebody I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of that still smallness that got bigger.
You know, and that's like, again, we talk in peer support. Our wounds, our gifts come from our wounds. So wherever our wounds have been, it's like in the context of that wound, we've traversed, you could call it the underground or the other ground.
The other ground, yeah.
We've traversed some territory that a lot of people don't get to go to, or they only glimpse, and they don't understand it. But if we can, with integrity, bring the message back from that wound and share it in a way that it helps other people heal, that's the whole idea, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's exactly the idea.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. That's really at the heart of why I published the book. That's not why I wrote it. I wrote the book to in rebellion against my trauma counselor. She wanted me to start journaling. And I said, oh no, I don't do that floofy stuff.
Yeah.
Oh no, not for me. Well, I sat down and I'm like, I'm going to show you, my counselor, right? I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, 297 pages got whittled down to 257 pages. And it went from start to finish, but the finish isn't done.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing too.
Mm-hmm.
So my desire in publishing the book, I wrote the book out of rebellion. I published the book in hope.
Yeah.
And hoping that if someone can see that, but maybe they know me, maybe they don't, maybe they've never heard my name before. But if they can pick up Be You Always, the colorful path from breakdown to peace, maybe they'll see that there are a lot of horrible things. But inside those horrible things are really beautiful things that wind up being the pathway to peace later.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And that's my desire. My desire is that anybody will pick up this book, maybe know me, maybe not know me, but perhaps connect to something in this book that says, wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe, just maybe, it could be me too.
Susie, how can people get this book?
It's on Amazon.
Okay, so it's on Amazon.
Amazon.com for the US.
Yeah.
And they just I don't know if you can see this, but they really just type in the title of the book.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the whole title, not the subtitle. Just Be You Always, and then Susan Davis Morales, MJ. Okay. I'm happy that I wrote it. I'm happy I decided to publish it. I guess let's be clear about that. You know what I mean? The writing of it was a complete shock.
Yeah.
It was almost a stream of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And
you were taking vacation.
Yeah. And then in the editing process, I'm like, I can't be the only one who's experienced this. Mm-hmm. Let me go research if that's actually a process that people go through.
Yeah.
And so that's where the neuro and the trauma research came from, the neuropsychology and the childhood trauma. The von der Kolk, I think was his name, von der Kolk. Yeah, he's the leading expert in child traumas like mine. And so I did a lot of research there, and then of course it kind of went down the rabbit hole, so that took another 3 weeks to find the research that was applicable to the book that people might find helpful, not just useful, but helpful. And then there are author notes in the book. I give people a heads up. I've read books before that were filled with all kinds of, beautiful and traumatic themes. And I wanted to give the reader a chance to not dive into that if they weren't ready.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So in each, right before, there aren't a whole lot of traumatic or graphic scenes in the book. I tried to wash over them as much as I could, because I don't like to be triggered, and probably other people don't like to be triggered either. Mm-hmm. But in the instances in the book where there was no possible way to whitewash it, I would put an author's note and say, hey, just a heads up, this might get a little bit bumpy. This is, going to be kind of a graphic scene. So if you want to take a break, please do. Or if you want to skip over this chapter, please do. And, maybe you can come back to it, or maybe never at all. Yeah. But, just know that I have the reader in my head as I'm writing this, hoping to goodness that you get goodness out of it and not something else.
Yeah. Susie, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Lori. It was such a wonderful surprise.
Well, we just love you very much and
thank you.
Support you, and anything we can do to support your work, please let us know.
I definitely will. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, take
Love
care.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I told you you were going to meet an amazing person. And what about all that artwork? Was that amazing or what? Ah, I love all those colors. Anyway, and you saw Susi's book. She's written other books. This is just her most recent book, so you might be interested in that. Okay, that's all for me today. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad we have this opportunity to share with you amazing people with inspiring recovery stories, people that you'd never get to meet otherwise. They're scattered all over the world. We've interviewed people in Singapore and all across the States. I think we've done a few people in Canada. Anyway, lots of folks. So it's just my honor to bring this to you. And I hope it brings you hope and inspiration to continue your own recovery journey or to help other people with theirs. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.